Oklahoma City, if he knew for the duration of his next contract he would have a running partner like Russell Westbrook with him. I don't think he wants to be there without Russell Westbrook. Then he gets into the spot where he's got to fish himself another star to be able to be title competitive, and being title competitive is where he wants to be and is the most important part of his decision. The second reason I think he stays in OKC is because in the summer of 17 he'll have 10 years service time. And what that essentially means is that as a free agent, he'll be able to get a max deal that'll be 35% of the salary cap as opposed to 30%. You look at that added 5% on a cap, it's going to be in the neighborhood of 105 to 110 million next year. And over with the 7% raises over a 5-year period, you're really looking in a situation for Durant where that extra 5% of the cap could net him an extra $35 million over the life of that deal. And that's not nothing. That's not nothing. So you look at all those things combined, all the signs point to him. I know he's doing this full tour this year, and talk to all these teams. A lot of this is laying the groundwork for what he may want to do next year, because I do think it's almost a fait accompli that he will stay with Oklahoma City for at least one more season, the 2-year deal, the 1-year opt-out, and do this all again next year.
Did that trade help him want to stay there, or does he do it anyway?
I think he's doing it anyway, but that trade didn't hurt, man. Rob Hennigan's got a check for his wallet after what Presti did to him there. Now, I get the fact that they're valuing Serge Ibaka a lot and that he's a good fit, and they needed a shot-blocking four to play next to Nikola Vucevic, who is a center that doesn't play a lot of defense. And those are rare to come by, and Ibaka is one of those. But they lost matching rights on Oladipo, and Oladipo's a good player. I mean, it wasn't wonderful last year, but his future is very bright. Excellent defensive player. And, without all the ball handling responsibility he had in Orlando, I think he'll be a better shooter. And I love Sabonis, man. I think Sabonis is going to be a very good NBA player, and he fits perfect into what OKC wants to do and how they want to play that aggressive, attacking the rim offensive style in terms of getting the offensive rebounds. He's a very aggressive defensive player, plays pick and roll well. I thought they just made an incredible deal. And so you look at that deal, and if you're Kevin Durant, I'd say, wow, you make a deal like this now, I'd be crazy to leave. Because here's the thing. Durant stays in OKC with this deal, assuming that all things stay the same, the Spurs don't make a major addition, that the Warriors keep Barnes and don't make a major addition. I actually think OKC may be the favorite to win the title next year with Kevin Durant. So I don't know that Kevin Durant, besides going to Golden State, which really screws with his legacy in a big way, I don't know that it's a place he can go that is in a better position to win than Oklahoma City.
Brian Geltzeiler is with us here, hoopscritic.com, at hoopscritic on Twitter. Brian, if Durant does leave, now you believe he'll stay, but is Golden State the spot? If he goes somewhere, is it only for Golden State?
I could see Golden State if he leaves. There's one other spot I could see him going if he leaves, and that to me is absolutely Miami. I think that Pat Riley, when he gets in front of him, can be incredibly compelling. And I think that's a very, very interesting scenario if Durant would decide to leave. Because here's the thing about leaving. If he leaves, I think going east is a pretty attractive option. And unless you're going to join the Warriors, and again, as I said earlier, there's a whole lot of legacy troubleshooting that becomes that gets thrown into the mix if he decides he's going to go join Curry and Thompson. If he wants to have a chance to beat the Warriors, I think you do have to go east and see if you can take on LeBron. Now, again, LeBron was the champion, so it's a harder way to go, but it's a lot more top-heavy in the West. You just got to knock off one team in the East. So to me, I would look at Miami, where Pat Riley's got a very interesting group there. I think the addition of Durant would make Whiteside want to take less to stay. You still have Dragic, you still have Wade, you may get Bosh back, and it's the mystique of Pat Riley. Again, I think both of these are very, very remote possibilities. I think the high likelihood is that he stays in Oklahoma City.
Other than Durant, who is the next guy that you have your eye on that's going to be the most interesting story come Thursday?
It's funny because you're hearing that Dwight Howard's a really, really interesting player out there right now. Listen, Al Horford's going to be a guy that's going to be in the market to leave also, but guys like Horford and Conley coming off deals that were woefully underpaid deals, I think are more likely to stay with their own teams just as they can max out every dollar and get that one last big mega deal. Howard's gotten those. He opted out of one. His name has become somewhat, it's the way he ran out of Orlando, the L.A. blow-up. And as good as he was in Houston for 2 years, the way this whole thing blew up last year in Houston, and it really wasn't, did Dwight play a role in it? Of course he did. Was it Dwight's fault? No, it was James Harden's fault. And Dwight just kind of participated towards the tail end of it. But it was James Harden's fault. Dwight bears a lot of brunt of that. And Dwight's going to be a guy that may not get what he had last year, the $23 million he opted out of. No, he's going to want to sign a 3-year deal and lock himself up for some more money because he's had some injury issues. But I think he's actually going to be one of the great values out there in free agency. I think in the right situation with the right team, he could help a ton. I think he's got a lot left to offer. And you look at a couple of situations, Dallas may not be a bad situation for him. I think he makes the Charlotte Hornets so much better if they go bring him in. And I'll tell you, the Knicks, with Anthony and a potentially healthy Derrick Rose, if they could add Dwight Howard there, that's an interesting piece for them. And then they'd have enough money with what again, Howard's getting. He's not going to get into the 20s in terms of a contract. I think he's going to be, a $17, $18 million guy. For the Knicks, with their space, they'd be able to go get somebody else. So I think, to me, because of the fact that Dwight Howard's star has fallen, and I still do think a lot of him as a player, he's probably the second most compelling free agent out there, because you do know, we don't know Durant switching teams, we don't know Horford or Conley, even DeRozan, all those guys are very likely to stay with their own teams. Dwight Howard, we know, is moving from one team to another.
All right, can Ben Simmons and Brian Colangelo lure someone to Philly?
Yes. One of these big names, no. But also, I don't necessarily think that they have to at this stage. I think that at this stage of the game, I think what they need to do is just get a younger guy to make some progress going forward. So I don't know that you're not going to get a Mike Conley or an Al Horford, but if you went out and you paid Jeremy Lin 3 years and $36 million, I think you got yourself a good young point guard. I mean, he's 26, 27 years old. He's not terribly old, and you need somebody that's going to pull this group together. Here's the thing for Philly. It's just important not to come back, and this is with all due respect to Ish Smith, who's afforded quite well of himself in the last 2 years as Philly's point guard. But with the talent that you're assembling right now, you can't come back with Ish Smith as your lead guard. You can't. So to me, I would look at a guy like Jeremy Lin, even if I had to overpay him a little bit, because I think he'd represent some value to the Sixers and really would be the kind of guy that could pull this thing together, and you could see some meaningful progress. Listen, give the Sixers, you'd like to have a 30-win season and be able to show that you can be competitive with some teams. I think you're going to need a lead guard to do that. To me, Lin's a good name that's available for them in free agency.
Let me, because DeRozan, he was drafted by Colangelo. Does he make any sense, number one, and any shot?
When he makes sense, of course he'd make sense. I mean, a wing like him, you'd absolutely find a spot for it. Do you have a shot? No, you don't have a shot. I mean, the thing about DeRozan is this: he's not even taking visits. He's that locked into going back to Toronto. And I do think if something would happen with Toronto and he felt jilted, he's going to run to the Lakers. Hey, he's going to go home. So the situation with DeRozan, I just don't think it's an open situation for them. And yes, the Colangelo connection would be nice, but in the end, I don't think that's going to happen. But listen, Philly's going to be out there talking to teams. And the other thing is I think a trade's going to go down. I think either Noel or Okafor will get dealt for some wing or some backcourt help. So I think you'll see a signing and a trade, and you'll add a couple of guards to this team, the team that desperately needs guards.
Yeah, I was going to say, they didn't get it done on draft night, but does that mean that the well is dry for one of those big guys?
I don't think the well is dry for one of those big guys. I just think that Colangelo's got to recalibrate what the value is for them. And as you know, Mike, I've been a vocal critic of Sam Hinkie's process, and it has its merits and it has its drawbacks. One of the drawbacks and one of the unintended consequences of the process is the fact that Philly is really forced to make a deal here, especially with the fact that Noel's extension eligible next fall. So they're really forced to make a deal, and with having all these bigs, the whole league knows it, and no one wants to give him 100 cents on the dollar. No one wants to give him full value. So Colangelo's stuck with a little bit of a turd burger here, where he's got to make a deal with one of these guys, but he can't get the right level of value. And listen, part of that is the fact they have a lot of centers. Part of that is the fact that Okafor really pooped the bed last year in terms of his off-the-court troubles, and the fact that when he was on the court, his defense was really, really bad. And teams are going away from that traditional post-up kind of guy that doesn't protect the rim. And that's Okafor. Okafor. So he's kind of, his skill set is where the league is moving away from. So from that standpoint, I think that they will have a deal out there, but sometimes to improve your franchise and move everything forward, you got to take 70 or 80 cents on the dollar because that's what's out there for you. And I think that's kind of the stage the Sixers have reached with these bigs. They certainly have held on to them a little bit too long.
That's on Thursday. The NBA free agent period opens. It should be wild. A lot of big names. Kevin Durant leads the pack at the top there. Brian Geltzeiler from hoopscritic.com, NBA analyst, of course, looking down at the NBA free agent period as we get ready for draft night. Brian, we thought we were going to see a lot of big name action. We got a couple trades leading up to it. Indiana, Derrick Rose, but maybe not as much of the fireworks as we thought on last Thursday. Maybe this Thursday will provide us with more.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know about Thursday, but over the course of this weekend, listen, there's the thing about the July 4th weekend. Not a lot of NBA people are going to be, watching fireworks and barbecuing. It's a busy, busy weekend. You're going to see a lot of transactions coming down the pike, and I think we'll see free agent signings first. Look for, sometime 5th, 6th for us to start to hear about more trades, because the trades are going to happen. With all this money out there to spend with this new cap, the trades are going to happen after the free agency dominoes fall and teams have money to spend and not a quality free agent to spend them on.
Very good. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.